This quadratic looks a little bit different because of the parentheses, but I do want to point out that when you write it out, you see there's still just one unknown, that x minus 5. Yes, it's trapped in parentheses, but we're not going to worry about that because we know from Algebra 1 that we're doing PEMDAS in reverse. So we're going to start with this please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. We're going to start at the bottom and work our way up. And at some point, we'll figure out how to deal with those parentheses. What you don't want to do is like multiply this thing out or distribute that too. Just leave this alone. There's just one x in the problem, so we can isolate using Algebra 1 skills. So as I look at this problem, I'm going to kind of just see a big blur over this. I'm not going to worry too much about it, and I'm looking at what's on the outside of these parentheses, and I'm going to deal with those things first. And I'm going to say to myself, is there anything to add or subtract from both sides to start to get this thing by itself? So this positive 3 here looks like something I should definitely be getting rid of. I'll subtract 3 from both sides. That takes care of me doing this. The left side is left with 2 times x minus 5 squared, and that's going to equal 24. Then I'm going to go up the ladder and say, okay, on the left side of the equation, is there anything to multiply or divide? This 2 is multiplying, so I'm going to divide that next. These will cancel out, and I'll be left with x minus 5 squared equals 24 divided by 2, which is 12. Took care of that. Now I'm going to go up the ladder again to exponents. I see a squared here. I've got to get rid of that. I'm going to square root both sides. And since these directions say simplify as much as possible, I'm not using a calculator here. I'm going to use the skills from section 2.1a. I'm going to try to find a perfect square that divides that 12 evenly. And we can see 4 goes in there. So what happens next? The square and the square root cancel, and now there's no need for the parentheses. They're gone because they were only there because of the squared. And this 12, I'm going to think of it as 4 times 3, a perfect square times whatever's left. I'll square root the part I can, so I'll have a 2 root 3. But I also have to remember that there's 2 numbers that can multiply by themselves to give positive 12. It can be the positive version of this or the negative version of this. This looks pretty gross. I'm going to try not to think about it too much because really what I'm trying to do is get this by itself. So for as nasty as this looks, I'm going to keep my focus over here and I'm going to say, I start this whole PEMDAS process all over again to get this x by itself. So I start back at the bottom. Is there anything to add or subtract? Of course we can add 5 to both sides. And what happens is these are not alike. They're not like terms. This has a root 3, this does not. So I can't combine them. The only thing I could do is say my final answer is going to be x equals 5 plus or minus 2 square roots of 3, which Alex may want you to write as 2 separate answers, one of them being 5 plus 2 root 3, and the other being 5 minus 2 root 3. There's nothing I can do with these numbers. I can't combine them in any way. These are my 2 final answers. So take it one step at a time, really pay attention, maybe draw this on the side of your paper, keep track of what you're doing, take it off as you go, but we're just trying to undo what was done by doing the opposite, and we get rid of these parentheses, not through distribution, not through any kind of weird multiplying of things out, we just get rid of them by getting rid of why they're there. They're there because it's the squared, we get rid of the squared. Good luck, be patient with yourself.